Welcome to episode 2, and we're going to start with like I said, it's a foundation. So, budgeting. So, what's budgeting? I think it's one of the keys to financial success, and we're going to go over what it is and some of the ways that we can create budgets that are practical. And again, like I said, in this podcast, I'm not an expert at all this stuff. I don't have a financial background, expertise, or an accountant or anything like that. I'm just doing my thing. And again, it comes down to just really the mindset of who you are and how you think and that type of discipline in that realm. So I say budgeting and financial aptitude go hand in hand with your mental acuity and discipline. So basically, what is budgeting, or my understanding of budgeting is basically your ability to take what you have, your income, and make sure at the end of the month that you're spending less than what you're making. I think what a lot of people do is they don't necessarily want to look at their bank account. They want to live off of credit cards, and it always seems fine in the beginning to do that, but the problem is that the credit card and the financial system, it's rigged against you. They're not stupid. It's sort of like going to the casino. Yeah, some people will win because they have to let some people win. But the bottom line is the house typically wins. That's why they're casino. That's why they're making money. Banks, similar thing. Their products, their plans are to make their shareholders and themselves rich and enrich themselves. I'm not saying there's anything bad with the banks, but at the end of the day, budgeting and using the banks, the financial system, it's more of a kind of symbiotic relationship wherein you got to use them and they definitely use you. So, back to budgeting though. So, budgeting ultimately is making sure that you have more money at the end of the month than you do that you're spending. One of the things that we can do to track that is to have an Excel spreadsheet. I know it's boring, but it's the most effective tool. And the trick with this is you got to be mentally real. Sometimes I think people don't bother to look at their bank account to see what they're actually spending. So maybe this is the first step. Before you start creating the income spreadsheet, go to your current bank account, the one that you use the most, and then look at all the individual items that you see coming out. Because sometimes when you do a budget, you're going to remember the big things, but you're probably going to forget the little things. For all you know, you spend $50 a month on coffee. You just always, sometimes I say coffee differently, sorry. You, you sometimes you're always just at Starbucks and you don't realize, and every little bit counts. So go into your account, look at the current month, and look at the previous month. And so the idea there is you're going to see all the stuff that comes out of your account. And so once you do that, you then go to your Excel spreadsheet and then you write down everything. And be honest with yourself, write down all little things, Starbucks, and you total that up. And for the last 2 months, it averaged around to be maybe $30. Put that down. Starbucks, $30. Cell phone bill, 120, things like that. And that's what you want to do because then that you'll get an idea of your patterns, what you've been doing, because the banks or your account doesn't lie. You made those transactions. So you want to do that. And then once you do that, you'll now see in reality what you earn versus what you actually spend. And hopefully, ideally, you are in the positive. At the end of the month, when you spend all your money, it looks like you're earning or it looks like you're saving about $200. So after everything, Starbucks, eating out, the TV dinners, whatever you're doing, at the end of the month, if you're positive, you're in the black, that's fantastic. Kudos to you. You're on the right track. The question now is you just need to see, is that enough that you're happy with? Do you want to save more than 200 per month or whatever? Now, unfortunately, if you're in the red, which is negative, that's where we need to work on some stuff. That's a problem. It means that you're literally living a life that's more than what you can afford. What you need to do now is you need to start peeling away some of the expenses. And this is why I like an Excel spreadsheet, because you can play with the numbers. You can try maybe delete the Starbucks and then delete the going out, the dinners that you spend $400 a month on. And then all of a sudden you'll see when you sum up the two, or when you sum it against your income, now when you cut those two things out, you're in the black. You're positive now. What that means is clearly, guys, you gotta stop with the unnecessary spending. That's the easy camp. The harder camp is where if you're still in the red, even after you cut out the simple stuff, that's where it gets tricky. Yeah, the first red people, it's a lifestyle change. Instead of Starbucks, maybe Tim Hortons or Dunkin' Donuts or something. That's a lifestyle change, but that's not too crazy. But just imagine that your mortgage. So I'm talking about, so now I'm going to the next level where people that are house poor. So you basically looked at everything and it's actually the way you live, your car payments as well as your mortgage. That's where you're in the red. So even when you cut out all the frivolous stuff like Tim Hortons eating out to dinner, you're still massively in the red because of a house payment that you can't afford or a car payment. This is where you really need to think, what the heck do I gotta do? So one thing, some things that you could potentially do if you have a big house, maybe rent out a room. If you live by a university or something, rent out a room. That's what I did. And then now you could potentially offset that cost. With your car, again, this is a little harder because a lot of people do have 9 to 5 jobs, but maybe Turo, or maybe skip the dishes, or leveraging your car to do Uber Eats or something like that. Again, the whole idea is because you guys are in the camp where you have large loans, you can't necessarily get rid of them. And so the only way you can really offset the redness or the negative is to supplement your income, because clearly your current income is not meeting the needs of your current expenses. So again, these are some suggestions and ideas. You could also open up an online store, an Amazon shop, or sell things online. Again, that's something a little bit more involved because that's another business onto itself as opposed to a side hobby. But it can be a side hobby for all intents and purposes. But that's something that you can do. Those are some ideas. And again, if you guys have any comments and other suggestions or some other ideas that I missed, please let me know. So, assuming that these are some things that you can do, these are some ideas for the guys that are in the red of how you can mitigate your expenses. The next step is once you find a way to get back into the black, you need to set financial goals. And this is where I'm bringing back in the ones in the black now. So let's say, for example, you now have normalized and you have your budget, you're in the black, which is good, but most likely you're not in the place where you're saving enough that you want. So the next step is to set your financial goals. And then, so say, for example, you want to start investing. Okay, great. So the ones in the black, take that money. Maybe take $100 of it. If it's $200 that you're saving, maybe take half of it, $100, and put that away. Just throw it into Simple or something like that. And do it as an auto payment. You can go to any type of investment app and usually they'll have an auto payment process. Set it up as an auto payment. One thing I always suggest, set it up where it takes it out at the end of the month. So at least on the last day of the month, you do have that surplus and that investment money will go. So the trick is that if you do run into a problem during the middle of the month or the beginning of the month, at least you have all the maximum amount of money that you have at your disposal to try to mitigate some issues that you're running into financially. Investment should never be a burden for you. Investment is definitely the key to financial freedom and success, but it should never be a burden up front. Other than maybe a house, because you have to live in somewhere. It's better to mortgage than to rent, in my mind. But again, there's certain scenarios where it is good for you to rent, and we'll get into that in later episodes. So that's one thing that you want to do, set your financial goals. Once you set your financial goals, you want to try to stick to it. And the most important thing that you want to do is with your financial goals, you want to ensure that they're realistic for your lifestyle. So don't go like, I want to save $2,000 a month. If you're only potentially netting $100 at the end of the month, to do 100 is unrealistic. What you should do is maybe try to do a multiple of three, or say, be like, okay, I want to save $300 a month. Okay, so that's where hopefully you have enough play with your debts or with your income and whatnot, or more with your debts, where you can cut some stuff out, sacrifice some stuff. And then what you do is you sacrifice that, make sure it's in your budget, and then you just discipline yourself. So that's something that you can do. Now, the other part to it is once you set those goals, you want to think about your spending, which is part and parcel of once you've established your goal, discipline yourself in your spending and being disciplined that way. So, some things that I like to do, and it's a little counterintuitive, but I like to have multiple checking accounts. What that means is I have one account that's dedicated only for bills, and then one account that's dedicated just for my spending. And again, it's not very productive because you have account charges for every account you have with the banks. So maybe 12 bucks, 10 bucks a month. Yes, that sucks, but the point is it'll help you rationalize or compartmentalize your money. So have one account that's for only bills and never touch it with personal spending. And then you, at the beginning of the month, give yourself your allowance. So maybe it'll be 300 bucks. Take that $300, that's your spending. And coffee, all the fun stuff, even going out to dinner, only use that account. Do not touch the spending account. Do that. Again, not the best, but at the end of the day, if you're just spending and you're just coming out of one account, sometimes it's hard to really see what's happening. So it's good if you have the two, if you bifurcate it and now you have a separation of monies. So that's something that you can do. And then of course, lastly, you want to monitor this. So you want to monitor your process, monitor how you're doing. I know it's going to be annoying. Take a look at your account. You got to take a look at it. Set up reminders, set up thresholds with your accounts to make sure that you're not hitting those thresholds. And I'm not big on credit cards. I don't own credit cards. Let me clarify. I own credit cards now, but only after like 10 years of not owning them. And the reason being is because I was terrible at credit cards and I didn't really understand credit, and I thought that I can manage it, but then I realized I couldn't. So for me, I went really hardcore and I really disciplined myself to only spend money that I earned. I didn't live off of credit card or off of credit for many years because I wanted to discipline myself mentally, keep myself mentally strong and disciplined to only spend what I earn. So fast forward 10 years later, yeah, I have a credit card and it's simply it has a zero balance on it constantly because I've trained my mind to never leverage credit in that way or over spend or over indulge myself with credit. So I use it as a tool as opposed to it using me. And it's helped me over these years. And I love it because, again, it's just like a child. A child will develop bad behavior if it sees bad behavior. So I realize my bad behavior and so I cut it out. So I'm not saying I have anything against credit cards. I have nothing against banks either. It's just you got to understand that they're there to work against you because they need to make money off of you. So your best bet is if you know that you can't handle it, cut it out, get rid of it. Just for a season, just for a certain time. So those are some of the key foundational things. Again, hope you found it helpful. Please like, subscribe, and allow me to create more of this great content. Or at least I think it's great. Thanks. And again, love to hear back any feedback, anything that I missed. Let me know. God bless.